Hello. Okay, let me get this. Oh, I see. Okay, so let me say for right off the bat, this is definitely going to be a pro stream today. I'm rocking it this morning, like single dad style. My wife is out doing something that she has to take care of this morning. It's been taking way longer than it was scheduled or supposed to. So I got one kid on the computer doing classwork, another kid in front of Octonauts on the TV. I have no idea how the stream is going to go, how much attention they're going to need, but we'll see what happens. It'll be, we'll see. And I wasn't able to do half of the preparation that I wanted to, so we will see where we end up. But it's all good. Happy Friday, everybody. Hopefully everyone's doing well. Excited to see some friends here with us. So I wanted to say, like I talked about on Tuesday? So I am working on the Drizzt action figure review. I haven't gotten very far on that. I'm probably going to be doing that over the weekend. But I did want to say that, so I dug out some of my other things. So yeah, so this was the Kreon figure in the Kreon series of Drizzt. And then there were a couple of miniatures that have been made over the years. So from the Dungeons and Dragons miniature game / miniatures. So this was the first one, which is pretty good. So on this one, he's got obviously like jet black skin. There are eyeballs that are just dots of white, and they are offset. They're not correctly applied on this miniature. I mean, I suppose I could try to repaint it. They're very small, and it's okay. So yeah, it has a whole bunch of information on the bottom for the game. So it was 14 out of 60 and whatever. That symbol applied to a specific set. His name was Drizzt, Drow Ranger. He's chaotic good. He was 87 points in the game. I don't remember what that correlates to. And the star at the very bottom means he was some kind of a rare figure, whatever. I did not pull Drizzt. I had to buy him individually, and I think it cost me probably more than $20 or so. This figure was reprinted in the Drizzt boxed game. I forget the name of it. So obviously same figure, just in straight up plastic. So you could paint these. Maybe one day I will. Who knows? I got a big box of these kind of things. This one also came with a Gwenwivar. I believe I have the original painted version, but I can't find it. So it's somewhere. I have a bunch of D&D minis in boxes, and like they're all... I went a little bit crazy with my organization. So I made little dividers, and I have all these notes about which things go in which, but sometimes they kind of overlap, and it's like, wait, did I put that human figure, or did I put that Drizzt figure in the PC races box with the other Drow, or did I put it in the rare figures section? So I don't know. I have too many sections. Then they later came out with a really cool pack. Oh yeah, Zardes, exactly. There's this one. So in the White Dragon set, you got a new Drizzt figure, where he is much more of an action pose. And this one came with the big old White Dragon, Drizzt, and I believe the Wolfgar figure, which I also have somewhere. So yeah, again, similar stylings, just with a more action pose. No, yeah, from far away, it looks a little weird with the cape flowing out behind him. Now, so these are all, like I said, these are all from when Wizards of the Coast made their own in-house Dungeons and Dragons miniatures. There is at least one more actual Drizzt figure. I think there are a couple more. I think that, if I'm not mistaken, I think that Gale Force 9 did a Drizzt in their sort of more advanced D&D model range. And then there was, I think, yet another one that came with a paint set from somebody. So there have been quite a few. And then, as we talked about as well, there are other things that are Drizzt. Oh, and then I think there was another one in a starter from WizKids. I mean, like I said, I think there have been a whole bunch of them. But then in the D&D range from WizKids, we have the Elf Ranger, which, I mean, like, they just straight up even 3D painted him as a drow ranger with 2 scimitars. So, yes, this is Drizzt in everything but name. WizKids does all of these miniatures for Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder separately, right? They make both, but they are separate. And they make a lot of them in painted versions and unpainted versions. The painted ones are typically in blind boxed sets, but then they'll re-release things unpainted, so you can paint them yourselves. And these are really cool. These were some of the original things. And what they would do is you would get 2. I don't know if they do them like this anymore, but it's the same character, but in 2 different forms. So sometimes you'd have like a basic version and then a more advanced version. So you could start off with one as your level 1 character and then level up to the more, cool looking one somewhere down the line, which was a neat idea. And these were pretty cheap when they first came out. Looking at these 2, I guess this active pose guy has more stuff going on. The sculpts on these are, let's say, they vary in quality. Some of them are really good. Some of them are a bit soft. Like, there's some kind of texture going on this leg, but I don't know what that's supposed to be. I don't know if that's supposed to be as like a separate piece. It's just sort of a blob. Swords are bent to hell, but with some hot water, those should bend back to true. Or a blow dryer. Hold on 1 second. Okay, that's a text from the school. Don't need that. But yeah, so again, not Drizzt, but definitely Drizzt-like figures. Okay. My review of that figure should go up sometime early next week. I'm hoping I have enough time to do it over the weekend, but I don't know if I'm going to have. Right, they filed off the serial numbers. Okay. Pull up my sleeves here. So we talked about this. Also, showed this off on Tuesday. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get to do as much prep work as I wanted. Life just gets in the way. I did start to clean off some of the excess plastic that was around the base of the pieces here. So this is the 3D printed Zentraedi shuttle for Robotech that is made by Stone Temple Studios. They're super cool. Like I said, they have a Facebook group where you can see just what they're working on. The dude over there at Stone Temple Studios, he is currently working on, like I said, from the 3rd generation of Robotech and the Sentinels, a gigantic Garfish spaceship, which is a really cool, unique design that I love that's never been made into any mass-produced product. Only a couple people have made these sort of garage kits. So there are a few people who have been doing 3D versions of it that are just amazing. It is plastic 3D printed, not resin, so it does have the striations. Now we started to talk a little bit about the different options you have for sort of cleaning up a print like this. Now, one of your options is, of course, is just to leave it as is. Primer it, paint it. Depending on how you paint it, you might see some of that. So you might see some of that texture But if it doesn't bother you, then that's fine. That's certainly an option when it comes to 3D printed things on plastic. Is just leave it as is. You could also just be a little bit more heavy-handed on your primer, which will fill in some of the fine details, but obviously leave the big shapes as is. You can see on here, see the texture a little bit. Yeah, and exactly as Zarda is saying. And I'm going to defer to Zardaz's much more knowledge about working with 3D printed stuff than I have at this point. So you can just leave it as is, primer it, and go from there. Oh my goodness. Hold on 1 second. Okay. You can also you can sand it. Get like a fine grit sandpaper and sand it a little bit. That would work. And then there are products that people make that you paint on, and it creates a hard outer shell, essentially. And my wife has this. Oh, thank you for the bits. Hey, Simon. Well, thanks. Thanks for stopping by. I'm sure I'll see you later on another stream. Thanks so much. Thanks for the bits. So there's it's a resin. So I thought that I could like just do it on stream, but no, apparently you need like ventilation, and the guy in the video, he's got these gloves and these heavy this heavy jacket and a respirator. I'm like, okay, well, clearly I can't get all of that stuff for today at least. But it's a 2-part mixture. There's a liquid resin and a liquid hardener, and you mix it together, and then you have to let it sit, and then it turns into this goop, and you paint it on, and then it solidifies into essentially like a hard outer shell. And it looks weird, but apparently it works. It looks like it will obscure a little bit of fine detail. Just that's the nature of the beast. But like I said, we actually have it, so I will try that at some point. Now, again, when you're dealing with resin printing, resin can print at a much finer level of detail, so you don't have to worry about that stuff quite as much. Now, even a resin print, you very well might need to do some cleanup work and sanding on certain areas. Thank you so much, Arsenal Roy 2K. I appreciate it. Getting close, guys. We're getting close to that Gladiator tank. So I'm just taking my regular hobby knife to further trim down this thick edge here. There was a bunch of this. It's not exactly flash because that's from specifically in like injection molding kind of stuff, but that's essentially what it was around the edges. And I was actually able just to pop off a lot of it by hand, which was kind of neat. It was one of those really soothing things, like peeling off a little ring of plastic. I recommend it. But now I'm just going around just very lightly, just trimming off this excess plastic. And in theory, it will, once I get all this trimmed off, it should line up pretty well. Now, once I glue it, there's probably going to, you'll still see the seam. We'll see how bad it is and if I need to patch it up with green stuff, which I probably will. Thank you so much, Nerdy Duck. Look at that. Look at that. We hit our goal. Thank you so much. As soon as the show's over, I'm going to check in with my local store and tell them to get me a Gladiator. And we're going to do it. That's awesome. Thank you so much. We are going to build the tank. You all are going to get to decide via some sort of poll which version we build, and we'll name it, and we'll do the whole thing. That's awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. I very much appreciate the support. It's going to be great. If you're going to have a seam. Yeah, exactly, Zarda. So when you're dealing with things like seams, you just get the green stuff and just fill that in. And something like this will be pretty easy. Like, I'm no sculptor with green stuff, but I think this should be pretty straightforward. Okay, so that's looking better already. And it's the whole 3D printing things is, yes, exactly, Zarda's. Yeah, anytime you are doing green stuff, you want to do that before you do any sort of like any kind of finishing work, anything that involves any sort of coating, whether it's primer or really anything else that you're doing, obviously painting and things like that. And if you're not familiar with what green stuff is, it's also a two-part mixture. Typically, it's the reason why it's green stuff is there's a little strip of blue and a little strip of yellow. You tear off a little piece, you mix it together, it turns green, and then you use it. It's like essentially it's putty that you can stick on something, form it, smooth it out, and then in a relatively short amount of time, it dries and solidifies completely, and then you can trim it, sand it. So there's the front. It's got these two little nubs, and then so it's got a couple of these cool little indented lines on the top, and then, yeah, I mean, it's just the model's it's not completely smooth. It's a little bit of like polygons, I guess. I assume. I don't know. I know almost nothing about like the 3D sculpting aspect of all this. Hey, Patty, how you doing? I hope everybody is having a lovely, lovely Friday. We celebrated the first night of Hanukkah last night. Gave the kids a whole bunch of presents. We have a mountain more presents to give them this week. It's ridiculous. I think a lot of us parents are going a little overboard with the presents and things this year, but, you know, it's important. Yeah, so because this is a seam that I have to fix anyway, I'm not being as careful as I otherwise might be with regards to trimming this. Just running the knife along. Yeah, Zardos, that's true. And again, with that stuff, that might actually solve some of that with that paint on stuff I'm talking about. I don't know the actual name of it. Let me see. My wife did give me the link. Okay, it's called XTC 3D High Performance 3D Print Coating from a company called Reynolds Advanced Materials, which again my wife uses for her silicone molding and resin stuff. My wife is if you haven't gotten the hint by now, my wife is way cooler than me with a lot of stuff. She sculpts, she makes her own molds, she paints. She's pretty incredible. I just play with toys. She can actually like make them. Okay. So this is working well. Apparently for school today, my son is making a reindeer. That's fun. Fun and festive. Oh man, what's happening to all those mall reindeers this year? They're taking them back out to the farm. Okay. Getting close. Oh yeah, Rabbit Wombat. Good point. Yeah, all those other interesting things. And she also makes really, really great soaps. It's true. We've been lucky. We've been blessed. A lot of people, especially nearby in the community, have been like really actively looking for a lot of like local made things for gifts this holiday season. So we've had a lot of local soap sales, which has been nice. Hey, Ro. Welcome. Yeah, and then the mall Santas for sure. I've seen, obviously I've seen, yeah, lots of people playing the Cyberpunk game. The stuff I've seen looks, I mean, it looks cool. Although I guess there are some issues with settings on certain places. I don't know how all that stuff goes. And I know there are some controversies with that game, so I neither support it nor boycott it, only because I don't know everything about it, and I don't play video games anyway, so I don't have to. So I have some luxury in that respect. Erdinsk, my wife she has very little interest in Warhammer. I've tried, and she's not super into it, and that's fine. Nobody needs to be into everything. She does know quite a bit about Marvel and DC, though. We were just talking about something, and she came up with like a really good point about some comic book character. I was like, oh, that's a great point. And yes, Ro, there is controversy about everything. Yeah, mall Santas are maybe a thing of the past. Oh man, that rumor, I don't know, but that they were going to try to hand out the vaccine through mall Santas or something. That was just bizarre. So it's not going to line up perfectly. I'm definitely going to have gap seam filling to do, which again is fine. It's, that's the thing with models. So I think I'm just going to throw some glue on here and see what happens. It'll be a lot easier to sort of look at this and handle it once it's together anyway. So I think I'm just going to glue it and see what happens. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they can do something where, yeah, the Santa person is in something, and then you go out and just sort of stare at him and whatever. I don't know. I'm Jewish. I don't really we don't do the Santa thing. But for all those kids who are missing it, I do feel sorry for them. But you know what? We all have to adapt. I also don't know how much glue I'll need for this. So when in doubt, don't put too much, but put a good amount. I am using super glue and not plastic glue, only because I don't know. It is plastic, but it's 3D printed plastic, so I don't know. Oh, probably should have cleaned this first. Too late. Okay. Trying to get it somewhat centered. Yeah, you don't want to do so much glue that, yeah, when you put it together, it starts squirting out. Okay, I don't know if this is actually adhering, though. It's pretty wobbly. Oh, yeah. Salvation Army stuff. They're a controversial program as well. Hey, Tiny Chris. Welcome. Thank you so much. Yes, happy Hanukkah. Yeah, and again, I didn't really want to, I don't want to harsh anybody's experience on Cyberpunk. I just was remarking that, like I said, I'm not a gamer. I don't know super much about any game. I just happened to see that there were some issues that some people had about that game. But again, I don't know enough to come down on any side. So you enjoy what you want to enjoy, and I'll enjoy what I want to enjoy. In the Discord, in the Warhammer room, I posted a link to, I can't remember the name of their thing, but it's a YouTube channel that does like these really amazing deep dives into characters and things from different properties. And they did one on the Emperor, the God Emperor of Mankind from Warhammer 40k, and it was really interesting. Their videos are extremely well made. Just a massive amount of images they source to show as they're talking. The guy has a really good speaking voice. As I noted, there are some recent developments in the lore that sort of invalidate at least one thing that he talks about. But I mean, again, like it takes so long to make these videos. Who knows what the production schedule was compared to when that book came out. So I don't fault them for that at all. I mean, hey, genitalia popping out of clothing. That's, like they said before. Is that a bug or a feature? Okay, this is all right. It's definitely solidifying. That's good. I think I did a pretty good job of getting it centered and level. I kind of went by the bottom to line it up. That's obviously where there's the most flat surface. There is some glue sticking out the side. Oh, and I got it on my hands. That's okay. Can you play the game completely nude? That'd be something. I guess you couldn't stream it, depending on how anatomically correct it is, which it sounds like it might be quite a bit. Okay. Yeah, it sounds like people are spending just days of in the character creator. Which, I mean, let's be honest, that's sometimes the most fun part of a game. Yeah, Rabid Wombat, we model people certainly know the pain, the suffering of super gluing fingers together. Oh, I've done that so many times. Oh, okay, bro. I the couple times I've tuned into people's Cyberpunk streams, they were just spending a very long time in the character creator. Okay, I think this is dry enough for me to put it down. So here we have the shuttle. So yeah, I'll definitely get the... I have some kind of off-brand green stuff. There's like the official, actual green stuff, and there's a bunch of other versions that they basically do the same thing. I have some form of milliput. Yeah, exactly. Stardust. Cool. And then, like I said, the guy was nice enough to send me one magnet that'll fit in here, and then I just need to attach the other magnet to the bottom. And, you know, as always with this kind of stuff, do I want to like actually drill a hole and put it in, or just stick it on the bottom and then paint over it? It will be a little bit of a bump, but you know, it's not the end of the world. It would certainly be easier. Hold on 1 second. Okay, cool. So Tiny Chris, for my model building, when I'm building in resin or metal or working with things, working with things that already have paint or something, this is what I prefer. I use Loctite super glue, specifically the ultra gel control. It's got a neat little top, and it only comes out when you squeeze the sides, so you can be pretty precise. It is a gel, not a liquid, and I know some people prefer liquid to gel. It just sort of depends on your preferences. It is gap filling, which is nice. So yeah, this is what I like. These little bottles, they don't have a ton of uses in them, and they're not cheap, but at least you can also get this just about everywhere, which is nice. Your local hardware store, Target, you can get this just about everywhere. Yeah, Ro, that's an excellent question. We talked a little bit about that at the beginning. 3D printed models, non-resin, you can sand them sometimes. And there are products that you can use that basically you paint on, and it solidifies as a smooth layer over that texture. And that's what I'm going to try, but it's toxic and all this other crap, so I can't do it easily on stream. Rabid Wombat, that's a good point too. Yes, I can glue on the magnet and then green stuff so that it's like a smoother bubble on the bottom. That's actually a really good idea. If I'm green stuffing anyway, I might as well do that. Oh, I'm sorry, Tiny Chris. Yeah, so if you have gaps like this after you've built it, and again, the parts don't fit together perfectly. Yeah, so that's where I'll use green stuff. You know what? Let me grab it so I can show everybody what it looks like. Well, apparently I put it away somewhere, and I don't know where it is. I have it somewhere. But yeah, it's just called Milliput, and Milliput has a bunch of different varieties. Some are essentially for more fine detail, some are for less detail. And yeah, like I said, it comes in 2 parts. You break off a little bit of each part, you mix it together, sometimes with a little bit of water, until it becomes, the color is consistent and it's malleable. And then you just sort of stick it where there are holes. And then you can use sculpting tools, or even just like a spoon to smooth it out, trim off any extras. And then you can actually sculpt with it if you want. A lot of people do that for adding elements to models or adding hair to a model, things like that. You can sculpt if you have sculpting tools or just a knife or your fingernail. And then once it's where you want it to be, you let it dry. It solidifies to a very hard, smooth, a hard surface. And then you can sand it, trim it even after that, and then prime it, paint it, and then you would never know that it was there. Yes, Eridins, Herschel and the Hanukkah Goblins is a fantastic book. It's a super famous book that's been around forever, and I had never heard of it until I was an adult. And then a friend of mine who is not Jewish, but it was just around when he was growing up, and that was like sort of all he knew about Hanukkah, which was funny. He shared it with us, and since then, yeah, we have a copy that we read to the kids. It's a good book. All right, cool. So this is good and solid. I'm not gonna mess with it too much. So then, yeah, I'm just gonna pop in the magnet, and I think Rabid Wombat. I think I'm gonna take Rabid Wombat's advice, and yeah, glue the magnet onto the bottom, and then while I'm milliputting anyway, I'll just milliput it into like a, it already has sort of rounded shapes anyway, so a rounded bubbly dome on the bottom will be fine. And I have these magnets should be strong enough. Okay, so we should talk about magnetizing. So magnetizing only really became feasible a few years ago with the explosion of rare earth magnets. Now, rare earth magnets are a whole controversial subject that we could talk about at length. Where exactly magnets, how do they work? Where do companies get rare earth magnets? What's the sort of ecology of how that works? Who is actually out there digging up these things? It's a little bit like the diamond trade, unfortunately. Or it can be in some places. Anyway, rare earth magnets they're very small and they're very powerful. And again, without small, powerful magnets, it was tough to really use magnets in models, small things. So this is very simple, right? I'm going to put a magnet here in the base. I'm going to put a magnet here, and then boom, it'll attach and stay together. And you'll be able to move it on top and all those cool things. There are people out there who magnetize everything. And when I say everything, I'm talking, I mean, I don't have one at hand, but say they have a Space Marine. They'll magnetize the arms on a Space Marine or the hands on a Space Marine with teeny tiny magnets. Now, again, like this model is smaller than Space Marine, but like they'll go to that level to be able to swap out different hands, different weapons for their Space Marines. Now, magnets are fun. I've magnetized a couple of things, but they're not easy to deal with. Mainly because once you glue one magnet in, you have to wait a very long time to make sure that glue is dry before you introduce another magnet anywhere near it, or it'll just pull it right out, and then you have to start all over again. Trust me when I say that, because I have experience doing that. And then, once you have one magnet glued in, you have to be super careful that you're gluing the opposite magnet at the right polarity. Because if you glue it all the wrong way, then once everything's dry and you go to stick it on, instead of sticking, it'll push it away, and then you've got to tear off one of them, turn it around, re-glue it, fix whatever damage there is. And I've done that too, and it's incredibly frustrating. I try to figure out this system. Okay, like I put that one there, I mark it with a Sharpie, then I put the other one on, and then see where the mark is, but then make sure I glue the other side to the other. I have trauma just thinking about that. Eridan says, can you use that to create a hover effect? So in theory, you could. One magnet and one magnet probably there wouldn't be enough to keep it in place. You would need multiple magnets to do that. Now, I have seen some, again, insane hobbyists create their own electromagnets, and that's where you get the real hover effect. So they have a base with a power supply and a series of magnets, and then magnets in the model. I don't know exactly how electromagnets work, but something like that. And then, so you flip it on, and then essentially then it just floats, and you could just like gently nudge it, and it'll turn. And like I said, I don't know the full science behind all of that, but what I've seen looked really cool. Yeah, like a monorail, exactly. Ooh, that would be cool to do like one of those armies on parade, the parade boards, and actually make a monorail that you could just sort of push and it would just go. That would be cool. Yeah, there's some YouTube tutorials on that. One of them had I think it was an Eldar. Was it a fire serpent? But yeah, it was fully just it would float, and again you could turn it, and it looked really cool. Yeah, magnets will do that. And again, you can get these cool little rare earth magnets in a bunch of different sizes and both widths and thicknesses, depending on how powerful you need it to be. how big you want it. So this one is a little bit wider. It doesn't matter. I'll put the smaller one in here so it fits a little bit better. And they're like standard sizes. I honestly have a bunch of them in different sizes that I got. My local hobby store had them available, and I had all these packs of them. Like, what am I going to do with all these magnets? So I have an old rattle can that it's no good at all anymore, but I just stuck all the magnets on it. So it's just a can with all these little magnets all over it. Oh, did I? Right. Wait, what did I say? Did I say fire serpent? Wave serpent is what I meant. I knew something was not quite right of what I said. All right, so I'm just going to glue this in here. So that'll be one more step done. It doesn't go all the way down in there, which is a little bit frustrating. Maybe I have a magnet that'll fit this better. Fire, right. I knew there was a fire something and a something serpent. So. Magnet. Oh, don't want to put that too close to the computer. So yeah, so you have sort of bigger, and again, like when you buy the magnets, they'll tell you what all the measurements are if you really want to know. And then like, there are these itty bitty little ones. Obviously, these things are better for things like hands if you really want to do that. The main thing I magnetized a couple things. I can't remember what the other one was, but for the Space Marines, they have a couple of little flyers. They're really chunky, kind of cute little things. And one of them has a bunch of different weapons it can put on. So I actually magnetized every version so I could swap it out depending on what I wanted to play. And it was such a pain, and it took so long that when I built a second one, I was like, nope. I just built it with one way, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. Right, I guess I'll just do the smaller one here, and it'll be good enough. Yeah, and as Rabbit Wombat says, there's a bunch of magnets can be good, useful for other things too. Also, when you're dealing with models or even essentially things like action figures, especially if you're 3D printing parts to make an action figure, magnets work instead of dealing with articulation. Instead of dealing with articulated parts, which are very complicated, very fragile. If you just have a torso and an arm and you attach them by magnets, assuming the magnets are strong, but again, these rare earth magnets are very strong, you can actually give it articulation without having to engineer parts that have hinges or ball joints inside, which is pretty cool. And there are actually like real mass-produced action figures that use magnets for articulation. How am I going to get this in without gluing my hand to it? Okay. Good enough. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, the whole 3D printing world is so cool. I'm very excited to get into it. All right, so we got our magnet in there. There's enough glue in there to hold it. And again, also, I should say, when you're dealing with magnets, you definitely want to use plenty of glue because that sucker needs to be in there tight. Because again, you're going to be exerting magnetic force on there every time you attach the other thing and move it away. So you don't want it to just pop right out. So I'm going to let that dry fully before I figure out which side of this needs to go on the opposite end. So I'm going to just put that on my can over there. Keep this away from anything metal. Cool. So yeah, I'm going to find the milliput, glue on the magnet, smooth this out, cover the thing. Ooh, now that's a question. Do I do the... Okay, now yeah, I definitely want to milliput that before I do the coating. Yes, that is the order. Okay. Make sure I have the right order of operations. It is very important. I was thinking, oh boy, how much of a challenge do I want for my next project? Because while I did say that on stream I completed one of every standard Robotech Palladium Books model, I didn't do the exclusives, of which I have 4. Yeah. 1, 2. Yeah, I have 4 of them. 2 are metal, 2 are resin. I'm worried. Thank you for the follow, Cheese Lover. I also love cheese. We just got an Aldi's grocery store near us, and they have really good cheese. We were surprised. So this is a metal model of Breetai in heavy body armor. Now, I've talked about it before. I do not like metal models. There's nothing inherently wrong with metal models. I just tend to have difficulty getting them to line up properly and glue together properly. And that's a personal failing. I have friends who love metal models. It's their favorite thing ever, and they never have a problem. And I am very jealous and mad at those people. Although I sometimes employ those people. I say, okay, well then you do it. Now this actually looks like a really good cast. The parts fit together pretty smoothly. I'm not seeing any flash at all. So that's good. I still worry though. There's a little bit of a seam on his head, but yeah, I mean this is a... It seems good, so we can try it. Oh, that's cool. That's a cool pose. He's got his hand like, oh, it's hard to... It's like this. Brie and goat cheese. Ooh, man, I like stinky cheeses. I like every kind of cheddars. I like really sharp aged cheddars. I kind of like all cheese. I'm easy. If there's cheese, I'm gonna eat it. All right, so we've got, and actually, a lot of metal models are cut in parts really oddly, and you have to like attach this over here and this over here and gently balance this side. I gotta say, this is a pretty great way of cutting up a model. I mean, this arm is going to be a little bit of a challenge, but even so, the way it sticks in there are a couple different surfaces to glue. That's always the thing. It's like, oh, I got to get the glue in this little thing and kind of balance it on there. All right, I've done a lot of talking. I should just try it, right? Let's do it. This glue is also running out. I need to get some more. We might have some more. Okay, here we go. Let's see what happens. Yes, curse you, Micronians. Now, I don't know if the scale turned out quite right with these. I should have brought the tray of Robotech models over here so I could compare. Although if we look at him next to the shuttle, it would be a tight fit for Breetai to get in the shuttle. But he is an exceptionally large, robust, and powerful example of a male Zentraedi. I believe he is, I think canonically, he's supposed to be 40 feet tall. I could be getting that mixed up. I think that's about right, though. He is absolutely large and in charge, yes. He's not the largest example ever, but he's one of them. He's up there. Breetai's great. He's such a great character. Yeah, so if you are not familiar with Robotech, you probably have no idea what I've been talking about. Obviously, talking about models, but specifically what these are for the last 45 minutes or so. In very short, in the first season of Robotech, which is what these deal with, a race of giant humanoid aliens comes and attacks the Earth. Again, I'm leaving out a lot of fine details, but that's okay. Luckily, Earth has already received an alien warship that has landed a bunch of years before. They were able to salvage and reverse engineer a bunch of technology out of, creating super cool things like Veritex, transforming vehicles that transform from jet into robot to fight said aliens because they knew they were coming. And later they find out that this alien species was genetically created from essentially the same DNA as humans by another race. And some of them, including Breetai, turn to the side of humans and the side of good, and then fight against the rest of them. In a nutshell. But yes, Breetai is the supreme commander of one of the fleets, at least the initial fleet that comes to Earth, and then eventually, sides with the humans. He's really cool. He's got this, half of his face is burned away, so he has this cool half helmet thing. Rabid Wombat, that is that's just what's going to happen when you tune in. You're going to get Robotech talk eventually. All right, so that feels pretty secure. I don't want to mess with it too much. And then we have the other leg. Now, can I get the leg on and get him to stand? I mean, it looks like the answer could be yes. It's definitely heartening and encouraging that he'll stand just like that. Okay, so then I think what I'll do, I'm going to do the usual thing, the usual trick, right? I'm going to slather glue in the joint and under the feet, set it up like this again, and just cross my fingers and hope that it all dries and sticks the way I want it to. And then once it's all fully dry, then I'll be able to pick it up and move it around and glue on the other arm. That's the plan. Oh, and also try not to glue myself in the process, which might be the hardest part. Shiver me whiskers. One of our favorite things about watching little kids shows, especially the Octonauts, I don't know who here is familiar with the Octonauts, but it's pretty great, is when they have essentially their own in-universe curse words or curse phrases. And then my wife and I will say, what we think that curse really means. Or, what our version of it would be. So in the Octonauts, there's a penguin character. And he says, flappity flippers, whenever things are not going right. And we have our own ideas about what that would translate to. And he just said it in the other room. Okay. That's drying. I think this is actually going to work. All right. So this was obviously the easy one. Breetai in heavy body armor. This started out as an exclusive to some event or another, and then when Palladium was losing the license and the game was collapsing in on itself, you could just get it. So these are around. They're out there. I don't know. They're not. They didn't end up being super rare. So then the other metal model is Miriya in Super Valyrie. Now this is the only Super Valyrie. Super Varyrie was really what it should be. That was made by Palladium. There were supposed to be a whole bunch of them, and they didn't get to them. So this is the only one. Now, of course, more recently, Kids Logic over in Hong Kong makes all of the models that we didn't get from Palladium and more. And there are people out there 3D printing their own. So this one I'm much more concerned about building because it has a lot of parts. Oh, there's the head. It is very small. The parts are heavy. But honestly, if it's as well manufactured and crafted as Breetai, it might not be so bad. Okay, so whenever Fiddly Bits, Fiddly Bits is a good name. So whenever you open up a model, especially a metal model, you want to be really careful looking for any flash. That's any extra metal that essentially got squeezed out in the mold that is still attached, and then just trim it off with a hobby knife. Like I said, Breetai was pretty darn perfect, actually. Sometimes if it's soft enough, you can just kind of like use your nail to knock it off or smooth it off. So far, this piece looks good. Metal models are typically some formulation of what they generally refer to as white metal. Again, depending on the company, it'll be... So this one is 100% Britannia pewter. Huzzah. There's often some amount of lead in it, so you don't want to like stick your fingers in your mouth after you're playing with it. I mean, it's probably, honestly, it's probably okay. I think there's such a little lead actual content, but there is lead, so, you know, be a little bit careful. Don't ingest any of it. Don't let any small children have it. You know, wash your hands afterward. But what's interesting is that usually it'll come out of the package being right. Yeah, don't suck on it. It's overall it's pretty shiny, but you'll see some parts are more dull. When you interact with the oils on your fingers, it might change color. But again, we're going to be primering over it and painting it eventually anyway, so it doesn't matter. Okay. Now again, like they did a good job in the number and amount of pieces we get. It's just a matter of getting them all together. So we have the main body. We have the legs, which attach to the bottom. Okay, that's a good fit. I like that. That's also good. Okay. And then what we'll do here is the arms plug in to these leg pieces. So I'm definitely going to want to glue the legs onto the main body first and then attach the arms after that. I'm just going to test some fits before I start doing that. That fits in pretty well. Okay. So far, so good. It needs a little bit of a trim on the end there. Oh, and then once that's all done, then the boosters will attach to the top. Oh, and I think, Zardoz, I think what they say is that that there can be lead in it. It's like when you buy food and you look at the ingredients and it says may contain this, or this. Yeah, I think just different manufacturing processes. Yeah, then so these boosters will sit up on the top, and we'll go from there. Oh, and then actually, crap, the head. I think the head needs to go on first because it sits between the legs. Get it? Down here at the bottom. Oh, the head is so tiny. Okay, so now I just want to make sure that the head is still going to be good once the legs are on, and it looks okay. All right, let's pop the head on. Yeah, allegedly. And also, yes, like all the cancer labels. Oh, definitely running out of glue on this one. Gotta make a glue run. As we talked about before, Veritechs are loosely based on the real-life F-14 Tomcat, which you might be most familiar with from the movie Top Gun. They are differentiated by different head designs. So this head, it's very small, hard to see. But anyway, it has 2 head lasers, one on either side, denoting that this is a VF-1J for officers, but not like overall leaders. That's the VF-1S. So again, you can paint this any way you want, but technically this is Miriya's. Miriya is another Zentraedi soldier who comes over to the side of good, but she came over from the power of love and competition. She is arguably the best Zentraedi pilot, and then on the battlefield fighting the humans, she sees an amazing human pilot, and she has to fight him. Their duel in their mecha doesn't end with a with a definitive answer, so she shrinks down to human size, goes onto their ship, tracks him down, plays him in a video arcade, plays against him in a video game, and he wins. And he's like, "Yeah, cool, great game." And she's furious, tracks him down. They have a knife fight in a park. He pins her down and then realizes that he has fallen in love with her at first sight. And it's goofy, but it's also really cute. And then she comes over to the side of the humans, and in actually a really cool scene that that really stuck with me even as a kid watching the show is shortly after that they go back out. Yes, Eredinsk. This is the American reimagining of 3 different anime series, actually. So Macross becomes Robotech, or the first part. But anyway, so they go out and they fight against the other Zentraedi together, and as they're fighting, Miriya basically says, because again, her then at that point husband Max is the best, arguably the best pilot among the humans, and he's really good, essentially like a sharpshooter kind of character. And she says, "Oh, you don't have to kill the enemy. There's a weak point in the armor that if you just hit that weak point, it disables it, and then just move on to the next." And he's like, "Oh, great." But there's sort of the idea that that only someone as good and as precise as Max can actually exploit that. But then it shows you throughout at least that episode that the 2 of them, Max and Miriya, that they target that weak point and just disable all the battle pods instead of, kill the people inside, which is kind of cool. And yes, that was in a show marketed for children. Disable your enemy, don't kill him. Oh, and then the other thing with this model is that the legs, they will be splayed out, so it won't stand on those. I'll need to find something to mount it on the base, and it does not come with. It comes with essentially a notch for a flying stand, but it does not come with one. So I'm gonna have to scrounge up something to use. I mean, I guess I could just sort of glue the feet down in their splayed out position, but that's also going to make the model very low, and I don't know if I want it to look like that. So there. Some parts of Robotech didn't age the best, but it's still super great, and I highly recommend it to anyone. And I'm lucky enough to have several other Robotech aficionados here in chat with me. Oh, there we go. I was like, hey, that doesn't look quite right. And then it fell into position. Yeah, it definitely looks like there was supposed to be a piece included, excuse me, to fit in there. Ooh, did somebody else go online just now? Because a bunch of viewers just left. Sorry if I'm chasing away people talking about Robotech. I think, though, this will probably be the last piece I glue today. And then I do need to get going pretty soon. This weekend. Let's talk about this weekend. Tomorrow is Saturday. I will be here with Jessica Lynn Verdi, partner in crime, 2 o'clock Pacific for the War Room Warhammer show. And I guess I got to do it. I'm going to talk about Death Guard and where they come from and who they are, because we've got a lot of Death Guard news this week, and I got to talk about it. So there. So we're going to talk about Death Guard. We're going to talk about other stuff. We're going to work on painting. I believe that I'm going to work on painting my Space Marines. And I think Jessica is also going to be painting some orcs, possibly. We'll see. Don't know for sure, but it'll be good. Yeah, no, Rabbit, I'm not. I don't stress the viewer numbers, and I know that what it shows you is not accurate anyway in a lot of cases, because based on people's settings for whether they're visible and up, all that kind of stuff. So it's all good. It's all fine. The latest news on them that makes them super annoying. If it was from today, then no, I haven't seen it. I was gonna make sure I wrap up make sure I know all the news before tomorrow. But they definitely have some. They have some new toys. It's so great that they nerfed Disgustingly Resilient, though. Okay. Well, again, so far so good on these metal models. I'm not complaining. And again, as much as I don't like metal models, these are working out all right. Oh, that's annoying. A debuff aura that gets wider area of effect as the game progresses. Well, I mean, it makes sense. They stink. They're gross. They're gross to look at. Yeesh. Well, at least it is thematic. Okay. I'm going to leave that for now. Let's check in on Breetai. Okay, here's the moment of truth. All right, it didn't all fall apart when I picked it up by the head, so that's good. He looks okay. I'm not going to push on it too hard, but we can look at that. It's pretty cool. And again, like he is way bigger than that shuttle. He's only getting in there if he crawls, and then he'd be the only one inside. Interesting. Hey, look, it's not everything needs to be perfectly in scale. There's a small, it's essentially a one-man company, MEP Toys, MEP Toys. It's this guy out of, I think he's in Salt Lake City. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. This guy, I forget his actual name, but again, that's his company. Grew up loving Robotech. He's like the same age as several of us. Loved Robotech. He works in 3D modeling, and he does some other sort of like manufacturing, and then reached out to Harmony Gold and is like, I love Robotech. I'm working on these designs. Can I get the license? And they said, sure. And so he just makes Robotech stuff, and it's fantastic. Give me 1 second. And he really, really loves Breetai. So way back in the 80s, this was our Breetai toy. It's atrocious. It's terrible. It's really, really bad. And again, this was a line that was not known for its great sculpts and likenesses, but this thing is just god awful. So he's like, I want a really great Breetai toy. Got the license, and he made this magnificent beauty. Oh, let me get the focus. It's fantastic. I bought one, and I reviewed it for Figures.com. I did a really long review because I love it. I'm really excited about it. It's beautiful. It's great. Articulated in the arms. The legs, they can just sort of swivel underneath the tunic, but that's fine. Came with some different hands, a little tiny Rick ejecting from his Veritech, the stick to beat up Veritechs that he used. It's all from the show. But it looks great. Super cool. Love it. And if you were one of the first like 100 people to buy this, he threw in a resin print of his flagship in a miniature scale, which I absolutely love. That he also just sculpted and made. So like just really, really cool stuff. He's working on several more Robotech things. If you're into Robotech at all, follow them on Facebook, because every so often he'll just show like some incredible new thing that he's crafted. That like maybe one day he'll get approval to sell, but he's like, yeah, I just made this as a test, and then he gives it away, and it's just like really cool stuff. Or like one he auctioned off something for charity, I think. But yeah, super cool dude, really cool designs. Working on more stuff, hopefully upcoming. So follow MEP Toys, MEP Toys. I think that's it. Oh yes, and then tomorrow night, Homebuddies group stream. I think it's on Cameron's channel. I don't know for certain, and I don't know what we're doing. Some of these group streams, we find out right before it happens, but that's the way it goes. People are busy. And if not, maybe it'll be somebody else's. We'll do all the normal notifications about that. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out today. Thank you so much to those who... thanks to all my supporters. Thanks to those who donated to fill that Gladiator tank goal. Like I said, I'm going to go call up Emerald Knights, see if they have one, and if they don't have one in stock, I'll have them order one for me. It should be here soon, and we'll get started on building it. I'm super excited. Let's see who there is to raid. There are people playing today. I see a lot of people online now. I think it's the whole... Is everybody playing Cyberpunk? Yeah, it looks like everybody's playing Cyberpunk. All right, let's see. Who do we have? Let's visit, I should say. We're not doing anybody. Okay, again, thanks everybody for hanging out. You're all awesome. We're going to raid Mika. Mika, who has said that she's interested in Warhammer, has never played. So once quarantine is over, we should get her over at Hyper and we'll teach her how to play. Okay, go tell her. Bye. I'm offline. Just need a couple minutes to clean up.